Hi, my name is Derek Henry with XLEV8 Consulting. The purpose of this quick video is to show you some examples of how you can leverage the XLEV8 add-in suite to help you more efficiently manage your email and your calendar within Outlook. So, a few reasons why this can be helpful. First, it's going to help you save time on little things, because in my experience, those tend to add up. Just to add some color to this, if you think about it, 1 hour a week is the equivalent of 6 months over 84 years. I bet you can think of a lot of ways that you can save a little bit of time and it'll quickly add up to an hour or 12 minutes a day during the work week. Some examples that we're going to go over here are emailing a link to files instead of sharing files all over the network and having version control issues. And then also quickly sharing your calendar and your preferred time slots for potential appointments. Another reason is you can save time on big things that might take a lot longer so that you can save that brain power and energy. Some examples here are moving and filing all of your emails to various folders within seconds versus doing it the manual way, or setting up hundreds of Outlook appointments or editing them in bulk versus doing it manually. You can also leverage your efforts over and over again by setting default rules and logic and applying that over and over. And also linking settings and different things that you want to calculate back to inputs and quickly change those and reflect those changes throughout the file. And then lastly, you can do things like you never thought you could. We'll look at an example later where you can send yourself automatically every day a list of your appointments for the next day. And then just overall integrating Outlook with Excel. All right, so we're going to look at a few different examples here. The first one is called file email messages. Now, to show you what I mean by this, look at this as a test email box right here. There are 92 messages in this email box, and I've got about a dozen folders that are representative of the folders I tend to use all the time. It takes a lot of time to manually drag and drop each of these, even if you sort and filter and do a few together. Well, in my current role, not only do I have folders just like these, I have a folder for every client that we speak to, which ends up being hundreds each year. So there's a lot more folders, there's a lot of messages, and when each of those, the more and more you have, it's exponentially longer the time it takes to file everything. So what we're going to take a look at is this macro called file email messages. Now to run this, we're going to use the macro search box and just type the words file and start to type the word email. And then run this, and you can pick the email box you want to run in case you have multiple of them. And what it's going to do is export every one of those messages into a list like you're seeing right here so that we can determine which folder they should be filed in. Now, there are a couple of things that make this work really well. One is the ability to set up rules. So based on the sender or the domain or what the subject contains or who the recipients are or what attachments are potentially attached, you can specify which folder you want it to default to. You can even specify folders to ignore if you haven't used them in a long time. Maybe they're kind of inactive folders, but you want to retain that structure. You can even ignore subfolders within those. You can also ignore the flagged ones because a lot of times that means you're still working on it. So let's see what the suggestions were that it gave us. Notice how it's using logic like here's the name or maybe here's the domain, and it's showing us default folders that it is suggesting. Now, if you want to change this, there's a drop-down list that updates every time you run based on the folders you have, because you might make changes like I do almost every week. So you can pick a different one. Or if you need to search for one, like I've got hundreds of folders, you could press Alt, Shift, and down, and it's going to show you a list of folders that you can search through. So we start typing a couple letters, and maybe we want this to go to a different folder instead. So the idea is that you look through this and make sure that all the folders are what you expect. That's great, and it shows you the similarity index. Now it says 99 if it matches one of those rules. If it doesn't match a rule, then what it's going to do is compare the subject words with all of the folders, and those are going to export to this other sheet over here. And if it finds a match that's close enough, it's going to suggest that. Now you can always override that, and the idea here is to just speed this up. Now you can use rules in Outlook to make suggestions like this, but they're kind of a pain to set up. They're not near as easy as just copying and pasting like this. And they're actually, the rules in Outlook are going to move it for you without you even getting a chance to look. So there's a good chance you might miss something. And here we're just suggesting these. And the idea is to cut down on the time spending doing that. So once you've looked through this and everything is in the folder that you want, you just run it again. Again, confirm which email box. And then it will file all these. You notice how it's shading everything green. And if we go back over to the inbox, notice that all the flagged ones, it didn't suggest anything because we set it to ignore that. And then we left this other one without a folder. So something that often takes 2 or 3 hours of time over the week is what it's kind of taken me in my past. Now takes a matter of minutes to review and in seconds to actually run. So that's the file email messages. That's a huge one because a lot of people like to keep their inbox really nice and neat and only keep the things you're actively doing in the inbox itself. Some people just keep everything in there. It's a big hot mess, and I just don't see how that works to keep everything straight and not miss things. Another example is emailing a link to the file. So we'll come back over here. This is the file we were just in, and I'm going to search for this one as well, email file link. So when you run this one, it presents you with some options, whether you want to just copy a link to the clipboard or you actually want to create an email with a link. We're going to use option E here, and you can always set your default here anytime you have a picker like this. When we run this, it's going to create an email with the subject of folder and file link, and it's going to create a link to each of those items, the file itself and in the folder it's contained in, so that you can share that with people throughout your office. Just makes it easier than having several different copies of the file, maybe version control going on. Another option is to take the file itself and copy that to the clipboard so you can put it in another folder or in an email. So how you run this, with the copy special picker, the default shortcut for that is Control-Shift-C, and it's Option W down here. So when we run that, it's going to copy the active file, whichever file you're in when you run it, to the clipboard. And what you can do with it is copy it into an email, just by pressing Control-V or right-click paste. So this is the file, the active file we're in. This one can save a ton of time, just making sure you've got the right file. Oops. So we went through this one. Now, next I'm going to show you how you can quickly send a lot of emails. Now in here, we've got this one already pre-filled. You know, here's who it's going to be sent to. You can specify the CC, BCC, which email box is it going to be from if you have multiple set up, what's the subject, and this could be linked to the date or some other fields. And in other columns here, other fields that you want to use, like the importance, whether you want to create or send it without reviewing first. You have a lot of messages and you've tested this out, you might be comfortable sending. And then you can specify one or more attachments separated by a semicolon. These can again be linked out based on date or something else. So to run this, we're going to search for the macro create send email messages. Okay, it's going to look for this specific sheet, and when it doesn't find it, it creates it with the right columns in here, the instructions, etc. Now we've already got this filled in over here, so we're going to copy and paste this into that sheet that was just created. Okay, now for you, you'd probably leave it in there all the time. Then you would just run it whenever you're ready. So once we fill this in, we run that macro again. It's going to ask us to confirm this because we don't want to just be sending out junk accidentally. So we click yes, and you notice how there are emails that are created with the people, with the subject, and with the files that we want attached. So this can save a lot of time if you're sending very repetitive messages, you're sending out a lot of reports, anything like that. It can save quite a bit of time. Now another example that's similar to that is the ability to add, edit, delete calendar appointments in bulk. So see this example right here. You've got the start date, end date, and other fields. To run this one, very similar. We're going to search for bulk edit appointments. So it's going to prompt us whether we want to add or update, and when you update, it lets you put in a filter, because if you have a lot of stuff in your calendar, you don't want this to just run endlessly. In our case, though, we're just going to add. So we're going to leave that there, and it's going to create this sheet, because again, it didn't find it in the file. So we're going to take these items here, and we're going to copy them into here. But again, you might just have this sheet and leave it in here if you want. Okay, so we've got everything in here. We're going to run it again. We're going to confirm whether we want to import them. And in just a matter of seconds, it imports all these items into our email or into our calendar. So notice we've got half of these things on tomorrow, the other half on Thursday, just like we specified them. Okay, so this one can be really helpful. My wife and I use this to set up our kids' schedules for the school and for their extracurricular activities and each of our things. And then we were able to import them in Outlook within a matter of seconds, just like you just saw. But even better, I was able to send that to her and she was able to import it into her calendar within seconds. We didn't have to spend all this time using Outlook. I mean, if we couldn't do this, if we had to do it manually, we wouldn't have done it in the first place. We would have figured out some other way. So this can be really helpful. Now, once you've got everything in your calendar, another way that you can utilize the add-in suite is to run one called Show Schedule Availability. So I just searched for a couple of letters within this one. It's going to run this and it's going to prompt you whether you want to share availability only or details. And then you can specify a range, and by default, it's the next week or so. You can use up to a 28-day range, but in my experience, just a week is usually plenty. So we run this and it literally is going to use Outlook to specify this schedule. It even prompts you and says, do you want to copy this as an image into an email? So sometimes you might want to do that. Other times you might say, you know what, let me go ahead and I'll highlight some times in yellow that are my preferences to my colleagues. And then what you might do is copy this. So we've got the time slots in 15-minute increments on the side. We've got dates across the top. If you're unavailable, it will show that. If you have flexibility, there's a category that you can add the word flexible, and it will say flexible instead. That way it lets people know, hey, you know, I can move this around if I need to. So the idea is that you take this, you copy it into an email as a picture, just like this. Then you can send this to people that don't have access to your calendar or that maybe just don't know what your calendar really contains, and efficiently share that with them, as opposed to literally spending 15-20 minutes going through and listing out when you can and cannot meet. So that one I use all the time because I have to be all over my schedule in my current role. Now we talked about the bulk edit appointments. They're very similar macros where you can bulk manage, add, edit, delete your contacts, your tasks within Outlook, and even the email folders and the categories you use for different items. And then just like the one that creates and sends email messages, there's one similarly for meeting requests. If you send a lot of meeting requests that don't necessarily follow a pattern. So a lot of cool things in here that can help you save a lot of time. Now, to take advantage of this, there's a free trial available. All you would need to do is go out to the website, XLEV8.co. There's no M here, not yet anyway. And then you'll find your way over to the apps screen, which will take you to this link right here. So to do this, all you do is you download it, you register for a license, you're going to get the zip file that has the add-in files. Within there, there's an Open Me First file. Obviously, you want to start there. It's got some instructions on specifically what you do, just a couple of steps. And at the end of the day, the idea is to save a lot of time. If you've got any questions about this, just let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching and have a great day.